Hey guys, Thomas Joseph here, and today we are tackling the twice-baked cookie, and that is biscotti. Now, typically for people, the complaints that they say are that they're too crumbly, they break apart when you go to enjoy them, or they're so hard that they break your teeth. So today I'm gonna share with you a really great recipe for a chocolate hazelnut biscotti that is delicious. It's still twice baked, but it will not break your teeth, and it will not crumble in your hands. Now, in the bowl of a food processor, I have 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. And I really love this recipe because you kind of dump everything into this food processor and mix it all up. To that, I'm gonna add 1 1/2 cups of roasted hazelnuts that the skins have been removed. So they're going right into the food processor here. To this, I'm gonna add 1/4 cup of Dutch processed cocoa powder. And you guys, if you remember, Dutch processed cocoa powder is cocoa powder that's been treated with an alkaline solution, so its pH is neutral, and it has a really dark brown color to it, different from the natural cocoa powder. So that goes into the food processor here. I'm going to add a teaspoon of coarse salt, and whenever we're baking or creating recipes here at Martha Stewart Living, we typically use coarse salt, not fine salt, so make sure you follow the recipe. And 1 teaspoon of baking soda. In addition to this, I'm gonna add 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate that's cut into chunks. You could certainly use chocolate chips if you have those on hand, but this is going into the food processor here, and I'm going to pulse this together to break up the nuts and the chocolate a little bit until they're about the size of a small pea. So you can see here there are nice pieces of hazelnut and chocolate still left because you do want some texture here, and the cocoa powder has been evenly distributed with the flour, and you get this nice buckwheaty color here. And I'm gonna put this off to the side, leave it right there while I prepare the eggs for the biscotti. Now, what I really love about this recipe is that it uses no fat. Biscotti is traditionally a very lean cookie, meaning that there's not much fat that's added other than what's naturally occurring in the egg yolks and the chocolate here. We're going to whip the eggs with the sugar, and we're gonna create a very velvety, ribbony, lofty mixture that we're gonna fold our dry ingredients into. So it adds a bit of lightness to the cookie, which I think is great. I'm going to whip these up slightly, just breaking the yolks apart and mixing them in with the whites. You want this to get a little bit frothy. Now I'm going to add 1 1/2 cups of granulated sugar. I'm gonna slowly add this into the eggs while whipping. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna dissolve the sugar into the eggs. And these eggs are gonna build in volume as we whip them. And that's really what we're looking for here. And that's gonna add the loftiness, the lightness to our biscotti. So it's been about 4 minutes. You can see how light and pale the mixture gets, and it's quite voluminous. Now I'm gonna take off the wire whisk attachment, and I'm gonna transfer to the paddle attachment. But just so I can show you guys what I mean when I say light and ribbony, if you take the wire whisk and you pull it up on the batter, it should leave a slight ribbon in the batter. So this looks perfect here, and now I'm going to put it back onto the mixer, paddle attachment, and I'm going to take the mixture that we ground up in the food processor, I'm going to add it in. You can just add it all at once. And remember guys, when you're using your food processor, if you stick your finger into the back of the food processor bowl here and hold the blade, it won't tumble out on you, which is a really great safety tip. So that goes in, and a reserved quantity of semi-sweet chocolate. This is 6 ounces again. So the other half of the chocolate goes right in, and I'm going to just mix this until it's nicely combined. You don't want to overbeat this because you don't want to really beat out all of the volume that you just created with your wire whisk attachment. So just until the mixture is nice and combined. And now I'm going to scrape down the paddle attachment and shape this into the logs for the first baking. All right, so now it's time to shape the biscotti. So I'm gonna take 1/4 of the dough at a time here because this makes 4 biscotti logs. And just using my work surface here, I'm gonna flour my hands slightly and just shape this into a 2 by 10 inch log. So this looks pretty good. I'm gonna transfer this onto my parchment lined baking sheet. And this will expand quite a bit, guys, so give it a little bit of room. I'm gonna do one more batch. You should be able to fit 2 of these logs on a sheet tray like this, and have your oven preheating to 350 degrees with the racks in the upper and lower third, because this will make 4 logs, as I had said, so you're gonna need 2 sheet trays here. So now to embellish the top of the biscotti, I'm gonna take a little bit of egg white that I've just whipped up with a fork slightly, just broken it apart a little bit. Brush the top of your log, and then to give it a little bit of a special touch, sprinkle with some coarse sanding sugar. Now you could use fine sanding sugar, you can use turbinado sugar or the sugar in the raw. This goes into a 350 degree oven for about 20 to 24 minutes until they're firm to the touch. You don't want really that much color on these, you just want to pre-bake them. So the biscotti have baked for 20 to 24 minutes, and they've cooled now for about 20 minutes. You don't want to cut them when they're piping hot or they'll fall apart. So these have cooled slightly. So transfer these to a cutting board, and you're gonna cut these into 3/4 inch pieces. And then these are gonna go back into the oven for about 20 more minutes until the cookie itself is dry to the touch. And you can see when you cut them, they're still really moist and wet in the center. And really, we're looking to dry the cookies out a little bit, but we don't want them to be void of any sort of moisture because we don't want them to be too toothsome or crumbly. So I like to cook these on a baking sheet with a wire rack so that there's even air circulation. So if you have one of these baking racks that fits into your sheet tray, that's really great. Now, of course, I'm using the classic combination of chocolate and hazelnut today, but you really could take this recipe and adapt it and add in other ingredients if you like. So if you wanted some sour cherries, which would really offset the nuttiness and the fattiness of the chocolate, that would be fantastic. And I'm using a serrated knife to cut through these cookies, and it's best to use a serrated knife here because it really does cut through the nuts and the chocolate chunks nice and evenly, and it won't encourage your cookie to crumble or crack. So place these on your tray. All right, so right back into the oven, 350 degrees, 20 minutes until they're firm to the touch in the center, but not dry as a bone, guys. So our biscotti, they're out of the oven, they're completely cooled, twice cooked, and ready to serve. Or you guys, you can store these up to, I would say, 2 weeks in an airtight container. And I just wanna show you the texture. Again, these aren't crumbly, they're not gonna break your tooth. You can see how amazing they are. Now we've answered one of your conundrums right here today. If you have any others, reach out to us using the hashtag Kitchen Conundrums. We'd love to hear from you. Enjoy, guys. Hey everybody, Thomas Joseph here from Kitchen Conundrums. Now, if you want to see more videos like this, click here to see more videos, or click here to subscribe.